I'm joined now by Dr. John Lee. He's a senior fellow at the United States Studies Centre and at the Hudson Institute in Washington. He's a former senior advisor to Julie Bishop, and he was the lead advisor on the 2017 Foreign Policy White Paper. He's one of the foremost experts on the Chinese political economy and on strategic and economic affairs pertaining to the Indo-Pacific. So welcome to the program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, China has issued a warning that Australia is increasingly racist, and it's warned its citizens not to travel here. Is this just the latest economic wedge that China is trying to use against Australia in retaliation for, I guess, most recently, the ban on foreign acquisitions, but also Australia's call for an inquiry into the origins of COVID-19?
It is part of some sort of economic coercion measure, but it's from a very old playbook. I mean, Australians are not angry with China or the Chinese people. I think Australians are angry with the Chinese Communist Party for its role in a cover-up and subsequent behaviour surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. Look, I have to say that it's China that's really politicised and weaponised race. China openly will ask Chinese diasporas around the world who are Australian and other citizens to be loyal to Beijing, not to their country's citizenship. It's foreign influence programs, the United Front, it is based on activating race. I think we just need to be scornful and disdainful of these sorts of comments. I think the more seriously we take them, the more stressful we become, and I think the more vulnerable we become to this kind of comment.
Yeah. Look, the federal government this week announced tough laws on foreign acquisitions of critical assets and infrastructure. Look, if you go back to the Port of Darwin sale 4 years ago when Dennis Richardson was the head of defence and Scott Morrison was treasurer, and you were working for the government as well, were there any objections raised inside government, and why do you think this sale went ahead? I joined the Turnbull government a few months after that decision was made, but I'm still happy to comment on the Port of Darwin sale or a 99-year lease to Landbridge, and it was a mistake. It was a mistake then, and it's even more so a mistake now, given what we know about the strategic plans of the Chinese Communist Party of China and how they use foreign assets to achieve those sorts of strategic plans. But with the new laws being proposed, I support them because if you just have static laws and rules, there'll always be weaknesses. But if the Treasurer has a discretion to review either upcoming acquisitions or acquisitions that have already been performed, that sort of cuts away a lot of those loopholes. And I think we do need to, if not reassess the lease for the Port of Darwin, at least look at the terms under which Landbridge acquired it. So you think that should be reassessed now because that's something the federal government has said it's not prepared to do?
As a first step, I think we should reassess the role of Landbridge and how Landbridge is seeking to use the Port of Darwin, both commercially and strategically, and see whether there are any reasons to look further and to reassess the whole deal itself. But as a first step, we should reassess the terms of the agreement.
Yeah. Look, on Hong Kong, what do you think the response of the UK and Australia and the US and others should be? And, should it extend beyond offering safe haven protection visas?
Well, we should certainly offer, if possible, citizenship to Hong Kongers who want to leave Hong Kong. But on this Hong Kong issue, China has really crafted a rod for its back. I mean, Hong Kong was a test of a couple of things. One, will China abide by its treaty that's signed with the United Kingdom in 1997? And it's a treaty. It's a legal obligation that China took upon itself. And second, will this notion of one country, two systems work? Now, it's a problem for China in terms of what it's doing with Hong Kong because the real prize for China is Taiwan. And given what is happening in Hong Kong now, Taiwan has moved further away from wanting to be any part of the People's Republic of China.
Yeah. Look, on to another topic, the US protests. They've dominated the news for the past week. What role, if any, do you think President Donald Trump has played in escalating the protests?
I think we tend to frame too much around Donald Trump. Donald Trump both condemned the killing of George Floyd, which is correct, and he both condemned the looters, which is correct. The problem is that Trump is not seen as a unifying president, and therefore in a time like this, he's not seen as a calming influence. But this problem goes beyond
Trump, and it was there before Trump. Remember 1992, the riots in Los Angeles after Rodney King, a black American, was beaten up. We saw 12,000 arrests, 63 people dead, $1 billion worth of damage caused. There have been at least 50 riots since 1990 in the United States, not all over race, but many over race. The point is, this is not really about Donald Trump. This is really about the structural inequality of many black Americans in the United States.
Yeah. Now, the protests have shifted media attention off the investigation into China over its handling of COVID-19 pandemic and into the origins. What's your view on both of these things? And do you think it's now looking more likely that the origins of COVID-19 were not in the wet market?
Well, we would know for sure if China really let us in to look at the data that they have, or what data was actually destroyed. But China refuses to do that. So now we have the Chinese Centre for Disease Control telling us that it didn't come from a wet market. Now, we don't know whether that's true or not, but the point is, until we are given the data and until outsiders are allowed in to investigate the situation on the ground and the data information that China has, there'll be all sorts of speculation.